I think when you're a woman of a certain age, I'm in my 50s now, right? I'm moisturized. Um, and I'm black, so there's that. But I think sometimes you can forget to dream. If I was caught up in age and what I should be doing, I would have stopped.
Yeah.
I would have stopped with 40-year-old version, be like, oh, it doesn't make sense, but I'm just now getting started.
Welcome to Bitch Talk. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm co-host Ange, aka Captain Party.
And for more than 11 years, the show has celebrated underrepresented voices in pop culture and beyond.
But not in the snore kind of way, which is why our listeners and followers have graciously voted us Best of the Bay, Best Podcast on 48 Hills for 3 years in a row. Three-peat, bitches.
If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram and check out our website, Bitch Talk Podcast, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're begging you to judge us. When does that ever happen? Oh, you're not going to say anything?
Oh, what'd I say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, on with the show. Clink.
All right, Bitch Talkers, this has been 5 years in the making. We have been so excited about this movie ever since we read the descriptor of 40-year-old version at Sundance. And we were at that Sundance in 2020 and just weren't able to get you on our schedule. So we really have been waiting for so long to have you on. This is writer, director, actor Radha Blank of the film 40-year-old version. Thank you for being on Bitch Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for waiting 5 years. That's dedication. I appreciate it.
Good things come to those who wait.
Yes, exactly.
No, we got the email, and I'm like, we are doing this.
Yeah.
I don't care. We have been waiting. So,
oh, this is so awesome.
So thank you for videos of getting us on the schedule. So Radha, first, for the people that haven't seen this film, which I can't believe there are, but can you tell our audience what the 40-year-old version is?
So the 40-year-old version, Version, yes, I did appropriate Judd Apatow's title and running time, is what people might call a comedy. I had just have to tell you that was not my intention when I was writing it. It wasn't until I shared the script with a friend in the industry, Franklin Leonard, who told me he was on a plane reading it and that he was laughing so loud that people were like, come on, nothing is that funny. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah. So it's a black and white comedy about a woman, a school teacher and burgeoning still at the age of 39 playwright, who's like down on her luck. She's dealing with the death of her mom and just kind of questioning like if she'll ever make it or have a breakthrough moment. And she somehow gets the idea that to kind of shake up her creative life and energy that she should make a mixtape at the age of 40. So she's kind of reaching back to her high school self, the one who was kind of obsessed with hip hop and MCs and specifically New York hip hop culture. And she calls on that voice to kind of reinvent herself. She's not trying to be a hip hop star, because a lot of people ask me about the film, like, well, does she ever make it? To me, or at least my intention was that hip hop in the film is more of like a meditation. It's kind of what she's using to get through her frustration, her feeling rejected and not seen. So that's the film. And when you guys saw it at Sundance, it was 10 minutes longer. It's still 2 hours. I was like, if Judd Apatow can make 2-hour comedy, so can I. But at the time, it was longer, and I got so caught up in sharing the film with its first audience that I forgot that it's also a film market. And I had to go out and pitch the film and try to get people to take an interest in buying or distributing it. And what a lot of people don't know, or people think there was a bidding war. There was not. There was not a lot of clamoring for the film simply because, well, one, nobody knows who the I am. And I was a star of the film. But also I'm shooting in black and white. And although more people are returning to that form
Mm.
and returning to actual celluloid film over digital formats, it wasn't very popular 5 years ago to have a black and white 35 millimeter film with a nobody in the lead. And so, it wasn't an easy sell. But um, one of the things that is most interesting is that my producer, Lena Waithe, at the time, we were having conversations with Netflix, and they were interested in buying it. And I'm a cinephile. I'm a purist. I was like, no, this is not for streaming. This is people are going to go to Film Forum or the Angelica or the no longer Sunshine Cinema in New York and watch it on the big screen. And she said something that like kind of shook me out of that delusion. She said, "Well, you have family in different parts of the world. Is there a coffee cinema in the South, in Trinidad? In the places where your family?" And it just made so much sense that this way a larger audience can view it. So we ended up going with Netflix, which was, I think, one of the best decisions I made because some of the biggest compliments I've gotten on the film is Black people telling me the movie is Black AF, New Yorkers telling me that the film is New York AF, and then people just saying like I've watched a movie 3 and 4 and 5 times, and I know that would not necessarily be possible if it wasn't on that platform. So I let go of my stushy, stuck up cinephile expectations, and I kind of gave into this idea of creating cinema on a streaming platform. Um, so yeah, that is kind of the story of how it came from this thing that felt like a hard sell, and this moment where you know the film came out um, as we were kind of still dealing with the pandemic, and surely things could have been a lot worse. A lot of people did not survive the pandemic. Um, but from what I hear, the movie became a place, to laugh and give them some reprieve and some relief from the hard time. So it all ended up working out. Um, but the what's so great about being at Vidiots today is like we get to have that moment.
Yeah.
Um, Netflix pulled out all the stops and gave me in the midst of a pandemic a drive-in screening because movie theaters were in New York were not open, and so even though it had a limited release in different parts of the country, we didn't get to show it at the New York cinema as I wanted to at the time. And then Netflix was like, well, we'll give you a drive-in. Now, what people may not realize is that a drive-in is a lot of fun if you're in a car full of people. If
Mm.
you're trying to gauge how a film lands with your audience, it's not ideal because you can't hear people laughing, you
Mm.
know. Um, so it was fun, and audience applause were people honking their horns and
Yep.
flashing their lights, which
Yep.
was exciting. But I live for moments like this because um, my intention from the very beginning was for this to be on the big screen and
Mhm.
for people to experience like that lush, monochromatic black and white um, on a big screen. Sometimes in 35 millimeter, we got to do that at the Paris Theater, and other times I kind of don't care as long as there's like an audience to kind of have the experience the way I intended it to. And then, if they see something really funny or a cameo, we can go back on Netflix and watch it again and be like, okay, but I'm so grateful that Vidiots, 5 years later,
Mm.
still gives a damn and invited me um, and the illustrious Robert Townsend
Yeah.
to
Mm.
have a conversation about the film afterwards. He's someone who has inspired me for many years. And I feel like his movie Hollywood Shuffle is a companion to 40-year-old version. It's almost like saying like all this time later, there's still the same gatekeepers and still the same bullshit, that often marginalized storytellers or performers, creatives have to deal with. So it's a full circle moment. And like I said, I know a lot of filmmakers, and I feel very charmed that people are still invested in the film and wanting to see it and wanting to experience it 5 years later. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
we wanted to be there so badly in person. We're based in San Francisco, but it's so exciting that this film is getting new life breathed into it. We've definitely never forgotten about it. And as a side note, I
Thank you.
watched it in Germany with my friend on
Oh wow.
Netflix, and we were so inspired afterwards. We recorded rap songs all night.
You okay? You
Not as
have
good
to
as
send them
yours.
to me.
No, I'm so
No, you have to
embarrassed.
send them to me.
Yep.
You
No,
have to send them to me because there's
okay.
nothing like a grown woman rapping her truth. You know what I'm saying? There's
Ooh.
nothing like it, especially if she had a couple of drinks. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I want to hear that
and
shit.
smoking
Other
things too.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some
Oh,
weed. It
listen.
was it was a night. It was a night. So thank you.
No, that's a sister cipher I want to witness. You
And
send that shit on to
Why did
me.
I
I
say
want to
this?
hear
Now
I
it.
I'm
know
so
Angela's a
scared.
really good MC. She'll
No,
deny
I'm
it.
not
Yeah.
a really good. No, 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 no.
Girl.
Anyways, no, no,
Okay.
no. This isn't about that. But I wanted to say, so it never happens the way you thought it would, but because it
Mhm.
was on Netflix, we got to have this really awesome night, and now you have a new fan in Germany to add to all your other
Oh,
fans.
awesome. I
But
wish I knew how to say thank you in German. I don't. But
danke,
thank you.
Danke.
Belka?
danke.
Danke.
Danke. Oh, Danke. Right. Danke, my friend in Germany. I appreciate
Oh my gosh,
you.
she's gonna freak out. So anyway, I think I could speak for Erin and I as women of a certain age
Yeah.
who also refuse to stay in our lane. Thank you so much for telling this story, sharing part of your story with the world. And something that really resonated with me on my fifth time watching it recently was
Oh,
this struggle between selling out, but you need to make money because you need to make money from your art. It's so relatable to us as being bitch talk. We've been told a couple times now, like, well, maybe if you don't have bitch in the name, you can
mm,
be, more
More
marketable and
marketable.
things like
Mhm.
that. So it's just like, there's that fine line, and I'd love for you to talk about how you figure out where you're going to compromise and where you stand your ground.
that's a great question, especially as I get older and the film has helped me make some headway, but this is no walk in the park. There still are all these questions of, of integrity. Um, it's so interesting because the journey of my character was very similar to my own journey. There were things in my life that I had to kind of collapse, um, and paint in a more fictional way, just so that it could suit the story. The character's mom passed away a year before the film starts. My mom had passed away 10 years before the film had started. She is 39, turning 40. I was well into my 40s when I made that film. But one of the big issues was in pitching the film before I made it, before we found the financing, you know, there were all of these questions, or even coming through the Sundance Lab, which was such a gift for someone who did not go to school for film. All of the mentorship and the guidance and the yeses and the nos, like you really do learn if you have the skin to be a filmmaker. And one of the many questions from the very beginning is like, why black and white? Why black and white? And I was raised on black and white film. Billy Wilder, um, Truman Sofransky. I know you're not supposed to say that film name. And there's another filmmaker whose name rhymes with Shmuddy Schmalin.
Uh,
Like
mm,
they made these quintessential black and white films, as did Spike Lee and others.
mm.
And I'm from New York. I wanted to make a black and white film, but people didn't understand it. They were like, you have this digital format available to you. What I found is that shooting on black and white film actually felt more like working in theater because you don't have this ongoing digital, format where people can just kind of get comfortable. No, we had 4 minutes in MAG. So you better get your shit together. Thankfully, like a lot of my actors worked in the theater. Peter Kim, who's become a very close friend of mine. And it's funny because I walk down the street by myself and people will look at me like, huh? When I'm walking with him, they know they're like, hey, you guys look, yeah. But anyway, black and white was a big question. And my DP, Eric Bronco, and I, we worked tirelessly doing numerous camera tests behind scenes to just to kind of not so much convince the producers or financiers, but to convince ourselves that we could do it and that it was worth it. I really wanted the film to be as close to pure black and white, meaning, or at least what we ended up was like 75% black and white. And that was something people kept challenging me on. I had a producer, not Lena, who was like, listen, it's going to take you 4 days to process the first dailies. So shoot on color and get it back in two. And I called a friend, filmmaker named Terrence Nance, who is kind of like this rebellious Aquarian. And he's like, girl, I didn't even look at my dailies. It's just like it was like the sky had opened up and it just kind of gave me the confidence. Lena, when I told her about this, she said, no, you're gonna shoot this film the way you want to make it. So I was very charmed and lucky and blessed to work with producers who were invested in me kind of steering the final cut. But yeah, there were all of these challenges. At one point, I think it would have been easier if I'd just put Tiffany Haddish in the movie. Um, she was a woman of a certain age. She had a comic background. She was known in Hollywood. I was not trying to make a Hollywood film. I wanted it to feel almost like a documentary. You know, like I'm very influenced by documentary film. We shot a lot of times it was handhelds. A lot of times it was oneers. You know, like I wanted it to feel urgent. And again, coming through Sundance with some of the best mentors in the world who were like, I don't know, I think you should do it this way. Um, but it was a beautiful test in just self belief and confidence. Like I knew in my gut this was supposed to be a black and white film. The beauty between me making a film now on black and white film and some of my forefathers and foremothers making black and white film is that I had a choice. And I chose to work in black and white film, not because it was cheaper to make or anything. I wanted the film to feel like a time capsule, which is why like you have rapper Styles P playing the bus driver. It's a bus from the 90s. You know, like I wanted it to feel when the movie opens up, it's electric relaxation, which was secured wonderfully by my music supervisor, Guy Route, one of my closest friends. But I wanted it to feel like a throwback. And so even though other people didn't understand that, I just had to keep trusting myself. And so I think when you're a woman of a certain age, I'm in my 50s now, right? I'm moisturized. And I'm black, so there's that. But I think sometimes you can forget to dream. And if you're not careful, outside voices will convince you it doesn't make sense to do that at a certain age. But the beauty of there is an alternative to not turning 50 is which is being dead. I don't think I can make films in that state. But what I love about this now is, especially having this first film behind me, is like I can kind of sit back and decide like what I want my storytelling to look like. It was my first film. I'm very happy with it. But Mary Haran, who is like a big sister to me in the business, who I just worship her, she was like, it's the second film, Radha. It's the second film. Like that's when most first films are bloated because I think filmmakers feel like I may never get a chance to do this again. So I better just put every joke, line, everything. I have a hard time watching the film now, 5 years out. I'm like, oh, I didn't need this scene. I didn't. But now um, I have that understanding. I have that information about what it is I want to make. And I feel like my film career is just now beginning. It started with 40-year-old version, but like I want a long career. I want to be like Penny Marshall. She's someone I admire. She started later and she made like 7 really good films. And that's the least I can ask for. And if I was caught up in age and what I should be doing, I would have stopped.
Yeah.
I would have stopped with 40-year virgin, be like, oh, it doesn't make sense, but I'm just not getting started. My confidence is like in a place where what was hardest about the strike for me was not being on set, was like spending all my time in my house with my dog, who I love. That's my baby. I love her to death. That's Chloe.
Mm.
Cutie.
Um, but once you have that experience, and I say this for any woman who is starting a career later in life, once you get a taste of that thing, you have to you have to revisit. You have to sharpen the experience. I thought after making 40-year-old version, like, oh, I'm on the fast track to becoming an auteur. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I just want to be a great director, really. And so that means opening myself up to directing scripts that didn't weren't born in my brain,
Mm,
and I'm okay with that now. I really am, because the only person I have to prove anything to is myself, you
yeah.
know. So that was a mouthful, but yeah.
No, it's been worth the wait. We only have a few more minutes, and I did want to ask you, this came out 5 years ago. It was at Sundance. You won awards for this film, but what have you learned on this journey of 5 years? I mean, a lot of things have been happening in the world, still
Ah,
happening in the world, and you're still pursuing your art. Like, what's the good, bad, and the ugly of it of the last 5 years for you personally as an artist?
well, it's so interesting because I do think that there's something about when there is struggle and there is conflict, or are margins being thrown up around people, that we come together. We are stronger in that um, capacity. But my struggle as a filmmaker is not like that of a young white male filmmaker.
Mm,
So I have to be aware of the fact that, yeah, I can develop something for 3.5 years. And because the industry is more risk averse than ever, you know, I get a no, even though I made a film that is only the second film in the 40-year history of Sundance to win Best Director by a Black woman. It's
Mm.
me and Ava DuVernay.
yeah,
We're in a very small
Mm.
club, and I
yeah.
hope that that changes. But, like, my struggles are not quite the same as other writers. And so we went through this writer strike, and we were this unified front. But when the strike was over, most of the people getting the acts in development looked like me. So what I'm told is, what I'm learning, I should say, is that you have to be ready to redefine success almost at every turn, because on paper I should be owning a house and doing all these other things and being my project should be on TV and film. It has been very challenging. And this is with an award-winning film. And so I've just learned to not think, okay, I got to quit my job and live off the grid and maybe start a farm or something. It's like, no, I need to strengthen my fellowship and just plan and build out my arsenal. Like in LA, I'm always meeting Uber drivers who are like, yeah, I'm writing this show. And I always say to them, what else you got? I know that that doesn't sound like, it's not what you want to hear, but you got to have an arsenal of golden eggs.
Mm.
You got to build out and be ready. It's sometimes it's about talent, sometimes it's about taste, sometimes it's about opportunity, sometimes it's about relationship. And you have to be able to kind of shape shift through all of that to put your work forward so it can find its audience.
Mm,
Mm.
thank you.
So we do have to let you go, but we just started a new segment here at Bitch Talk. It's called This Bitch.
Oh,
So we invite you to, yes, whoever you want to, who would be your bitch? Anybody you want to show love to or vent about? Now is your time.
it always comes back to the same bitch, Queen Latifah.
Mm.
That
Oh,
was the first time I saw her video was on. My mom and I were cleaning the house, and my mom was like, "Why to get in here? You're on screen." And I was like, "What?" And it was Latifah's Had It Up to Here, and I was just like, it blew my mind. And I I've had many opportunities where I've met her, we've crossed paths, but I can't wait to tell her to her face what she's meant to me, as a storyteller, as an actor, as an MC, like as a Black woman. That's that bitch.
Well, that's it.
Perfect.
Radha Blank, this has been a joy, and just we needed this in this moment. So nice to meet you.
And I needed this with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
5 years later.
Hey, it was worth it. Yeah. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Keep doing the work. You're doing
Thank
it.
you. I can't wait to meet you all.
Same.
Yes. Have a great evening.
Screening.
Thank
So
you. Thank you so
exciting.
much.
So much love. Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks,
much
y'all.
love to you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. You can find more information about this episode in our show notes.
If you're missing us, you can visit us at bitchtalkpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter and buy us a cup of coffee.
Did you know we're also on the radio? You can find us at bff.fm.
And lastly, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All the cool bitches are doing it.